shipping arrived yesterday and Shadow's spark clutch is in there, so I'm literally going right now. Hi Nina! To go and fit it. Hopefully this one will fit, because this is the second spark clutch that we've brought, and it's taken in total 4 months for this one to get here and previously 6 months for the other one to get here because the shipping was delayed and it ended up being the wrong one. So when we were ready to start the bike, we realised that it was starting under low pressure, like the bike wasn't getting enough power to start. We originally thought maybe there could be some compression problems, but after testing that, we realised that it had to be a starter motor problem. So we went through one at a time. We checked the battery's fully charged, we even put a jumper pack on it and it still wouldn't start. We then went through the actual starter motor itself and reserviced it, and then we finally ended up looking inside of the engine. We then realised that the spark clutch was worn and so it needed replacing, and that is literally what we're doing right now. As I said, it's taken us a really long time to get to this part, which is why as soon as it showed up I wanted to get it done before moving on and finishing off the paintwork. Thankfully, this is one of those really easy jobs. It's just a simple disassembly job. The only thing is the part that needs changing is hidden behind a few different parts. So it's one of those tedious kind of jobs. Obviously, you have to open the crankcase, so you have to drain the oil and stuff before. So it's just one of those tedious jobs, but it's not a difficult job. It did require some specialist tools that we didn't have. So because this big circly thing that I'm currently tightening is to do with the timing of the bike, there's a specialist timing tool that you're supposed to use that will hold all the timing in place so that when you take it off and put it back on, the timing is still in the right place and all of that. I didn't have that tool. It's also a tool that you need because it helps keep tension on the part so that you can very easily take it off. So it's not just a Honda specific tool, it's a Shadow specific tool. So we didn't bother going and buying it. We just asked a friend of ours who's a local mechanic, and he was like, oh yeah, we don't bother with those things, let me show you how to do it. So he basically used 2 screwdrivers between the teeth, which is really dangerous because obviously if they slip and you damage the crankcase, you then have to buy a whole new crankcase, which is obviously a lot of issue, but thankfully we got lucky and it managed to work for us this time. It was just one of those jobs that was on the list of things to do. Now that it's out of the way, we can just leave it now and carry on with bike fabrication. So we're going back to finishing the frameworks that we're ready to paint. And then obviously when we've cut things off the frame, I want to get all of these bits neatened up. So I want to get all of the painting done one time, that way I can use all the guns one time and clean everything one time as well. And also we don't have a paint booth, so we're going to clean the garage as best as we can and just paint everything inside there. So one of the jobs that I needed to do was seal up the holes from where we'd cut the back of the bike off, so that's something that I wanted to just get done and out of the way, as well as also the seat cover that I made. Get all of that done so that when we come to do painting, everything can get painted one time. So these 4 holes were literally the last parts of the framework that needed doing so that I could then paint the bike. So all I had to do was cut out some sheet metal to the size of the hole, weld it all the way around and neaten it all up so that it was nice and smooth. And finally, the framework is completely done. All of the fabrication is done. So we're finally ready to paint the bike, and we are going to start with primer on the body panels. Now, I'd just like to say that at this point, I've never done any serious paint work. I did paint projects in it, but that was with a 1-part paint and it was really easy, nothing too fancy. This is primer, many coats of paint, and even lacquer as well. So if anyone has any tips, please watch this and just tell me what I'm doing wrong, because I really want to improve on paint, but it's one of those things that clearly takes a lot of time and patience and practice. But any tips, please tell me.
Okay.
I think so.
Next side. Too fast. Don't even pay attention.
I do, but I
you don't do it, you just go and then you're going to do exactly what you're going to do before.
Now that the painting is done, we have to leave it off gas. Apparently it's got to get left for a couple of weeks. So we're going to start with upholstery. I went to the stores, I went around, I couldn't find leather that I liked, so I came home and destroyed a chair. I then dyed this leather that was completely bright red, and I thought it'd be a bit too much with the blue from the bike, it'd be a bit too much Spider-Man-esque. I left that to dry and then I went into the garage and destroyed the original passenger seat and turned it into a new seat for the bike. And then we got back inside and we're ready to do some sewing. Sewing is something that I've been doing for a really long time. It's a pastime and a hobby that I enjoy. But sewing the seat is a lot different. It's like a 3D type thing and it was a bit confusing. For the seat design itself, I wanted something that was quite simple but still had quite a nice look to it, in my opinion anyway, so I went for a diamond stitch on the top of the seat. I also put a bit of trim around the edging just to make it stand out a little bit so it wasn't just too flat and boring looking. I also wanted to make sure that it looked professional. I didn't want it to bring down the tone of the bike, so what I did do was I used an awl and I punched holes exactly where the stitches would go. I sewed everything by hand as well, just to make sure that I could control the stitches and try and get it as neat as possible.
You're such an embarrassment.
One thing I will say about the seat though, a bit of a criticism on my foam work on the seat ended up being quite big and quite bulky. It's just something that I wanted to trim down, and originally I was just going to not put foam on the seat and just have the little metal seat that we had, but it just was really uncomfortable, and obviously if you go in long distances you need a seat that is quite comfortable. So yeah, something to think about. A material that's like thin but also really comfortable for a seat. So yeah, maybe on the next bike, we'll see. So with the seat all finished up and ready to go back on the bike, one of the things that I really wanted to sort out was the chrome work on the bike. I originally had wanted to black out everything because the chrome was so pitted and damaged. I didn't think it was savable, and getting things re-chromed is not a thing here in Africa. So my sister told me about this little trick that she'd seen on TV, I think, where you get tinfoil and water and you just rub it all across the chrome work, and it doesn't scratch the chrome because the aluminum foil is so soft, but it's abrasive enough that it takes off all of the rubbish. It literally worked a treat. Everything cleaned up just so nice. Everything was so shiny. It was literally beautiful. So after that, all I had to do was go around and polish all of the chrome work on the bike, and then we were finally ready to reassemble Shadow. So after 8 years of a basket case build being sat inside the garage, and then a further 2 years of me working on it, I hope you guys are ready to see the new Shadow. Welcome to a new episode. Well, actually no, it's a new series on this YouTube channel. We are doing another project bike. I was really happy and the front wheel is back. Did it. If this doesn't work, I can't send it back. Can I buy another one? We have a light, the neutral light is on, the front headlight is on. Oh, we have not really hard to see So Shadow include in the blog. Views and opinions were until we close through the season. Hey guys, welcome back to the Shadow vlog. We have another problem again. There's a lot of road traffic noise because it's actually rush hour right now. I should have been out here earlier, but I had building work to do. So anyway, we did have spark when we originally did the wiring a long time ago before we did all the bodywork and stuff like that. So having the bike sit in the cafe for the last year, We don't know what happened. It might have just been because it was start or whatever, but we have 0 spark on the old CDIs. So. Okay, I'm really sorry, we're going to have to take a break whilst I do a bit of explaining because there's a bit more information to this. So, one of our friends who's a mechanic came around and was like, I can get this bike to run, no problems. And I was like, oh really? And he was like, yeah, for real. So, what he basically said is there's a magical unicorn bike called the Tevez that has such a simple CDI setup that it can literally be transferred to absolutely any bike. It will work with any pickup coils, it will work with any of the bike's mechanical pickup sensors and gauges and gears and everything. It's all going to be great. So I was like, oh really, tell me more. So basically he said that if I give him the money to buy 2 of these, because we're going to need 1 per cylinder, because obviously it's a double cylinder bike, he can get it to work. So I said, okay. So I paid him for 2 CDIs. I brought used ones just because I didn't want to have them sat around the garage just in case it doesn't work. A few weeks later, he showed up with the parts. He showed me how to fit them together. One of them ended up not working and didn't want to buy another one because I remembered at the same time that my first project bike, Sinis, has exactly the same setup. It had been in Gambia for a while, mechanics stole lots of pieces off it and it didn't work by the time I got it, and to get the original engine to work I had to redo all the wiring and stuff. So I ended up using the same magical Tevez CDI on that and it worked. So I went ahead and installed Sinis' CDI. The only issue is Sinis has been sat in the restaurant since we opened, so she's got an extra year on Shadow. I'm kind of hoping that the CDI works and you'll see the predicament unfold.
To this head is for this one. This one is for this one. No, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool. The only thing is we only have spark on one side. We have spark on the rear coil pack but not the front coil pack, and I know what you could be thinking, well maybe it was just a CDI that I stole from Sinis that could also not work, which is true. So what I had to do was some troubleshooting and test out every single component until we found out what the problem was. So we have a few different variables, we have 2 different coil packs, we have 2 different CDIs, and we have 2 different pulse gens, which are the bits inside the engine. So these are the parts inside the engine that actually pick up, they're also called pickup coils, that pick up the markings on the crank that basically tell the engine when it's in top dead center and when it needs to fire. That's basically what that is. So those are 6 different variables, and I basically had to do a bit of a chart. It's really confusing, but essentially what I found out is that both CDIs work. So I just realised that I've been sat in the light and you probably didn't see my face. So to put it really basic, what I did was got one system to work, so 1 coil pack with 1 CDI with 1 pulse gen, and that all worked. I then changed over the CDIs and I still had the same spark, so I know, okay, both CDIs work. I then changed over the coil pack and I still had the same spark, so I know, okay, both coil packs and both CDIs work. And the last thing that I changed was the pulse gen because it's the most difficult and it's inside the bike. So I basically swapped over the wiring and then none of the systems work. So we now know, long story short, we now know that the pulse gens, one of the pickup signals is not working. So, I mean, we fixed the spark issue, we now have spark, but we have no sensor on one side of the bike, and because obviously it's a double cylinder, we need both sensors to know when we need to spark for both cylinders. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to drain all the oil out of the bike, we're going to open up the crankcase, we're going to get to the pickup coils, we're going to figure out which one it is that isn't working, take it out and see if we can find a replacement, wait for shipping if we can't. It's just delaying us even more, so yeah. I mean, it's like this bike doesn't want to live anymore, it's just given up on life. But I haven't given up on this. We'll get this to work someday. Alright, so we're taking the cover off. Let's see what's going on in here. So these are the 2 pulse gens that I was talking about. Let's have a look at the wiring, because I'm not really sure which one has the issue. So there's some wiring going into this one. So this is the blue and white one. This isn't normally the problem. It should be this. Ooh, okay. What do we have? Oh! Okay, so we have a broken cable. That makes sense. That would explain why it's not working. So we need to rejoin this cable. This looks like it's been repaired before because both cables have a join in them. Yeah, so the problem with that is because this is inside of the engine, obviously oil is going in here, and as the engine heats up, the oil gets hot. So these cables need to be secured properly. So this is a repair that's happened before, that's just broken. So we found a problem, we can figure that out now. I think what we're going to have to do is, because it's an inside engine repair, wiring is going inside the engine, it should be a continuous unbroken cable from the pulse gen all the way up to the wiring, as in like a sealed thing. I don't want to wait and buy another one and wait for it to get here and all of that. So what I think I probably will do is I'm going to use those little sealy things. I'm going to solder and seal it, and then I'll also do a heat seal over it, like heat shrink seal over the joint as well. So, and hopefully that should fix it. If it dies again, we know for a fact we're definitely going to have to buy another one, and I will look for another one in the meantime. Anyway, we are literally going to reopen the what are we talking about now? There's so many different projects. We are going to reopen the restaurant in about 6 weeks. So what we're going to do is that we're going to do our best to patch that, and then see if we get sparked, and then we can then try and start it. And that's just all I wanted to do this year. So it sounds like such an easy task, and it's just taken me so long. So let's just get it done now. Right, let's go and get some tools. Hey, Paul. Are you going to carry some tools? Why have you gone silent?
Emotional damage.
Alright, so basically, long story short, it did not work. So it reconnected the cables and everything. We then tested it, and it had ohms, the same kind of ohms that you would get, and continuity as well, measuring equally as with the blue side of the wires, but still absolutely no spark. So I'm definitely certain now that it's got to be the Hall sensors. So I need to now replace that. I've had a look online. I just cannot be bothered to wait the extra time for shipping to get here. I've put a call out to one of the guys as well. Hopefully he's also looking. I'll have to remind him about 5 million times, but anyway. So what I'm going to do in the meantime, just because I really wanted to get it working, is I'm going to head into the old garage, and my dad has a few different bikes in there that he's got engines and parts for, because he's like that. He buys bikes and then sometimes they don't work, but he just keeps parts. So he had a VFR 600 VFR. And I'm pretty sure it's got the same twin cylinder style engine. So also it's a Japanese bike, and it's a Honda as well. Ours is also a Honda. So more than likely, if anything, it may have Hall sensors that could fit on Shadow. We also have another bike we could maybe have a look in. It is going to be a lot of disassembly and stuff, but we also have one of these pan-Europeans, and we're going to use it as the new sign for the cafe, but all of the engine components are all in here. I have actually managed to take the coil packs off, and it's what I then use to test on Shadow. But if we cannot find the VFR Hall sensors, or they're not the right ones, I can also come over here, disconnect some things, and we'll see if we can get Hall sensors that work there. So, 2 different ways of getting Hall sensors. We're getting Hall sensors today. I just need to go and have a look in the garage. So, I am going to leave you for a second whilst I figure that out. Talk to you soon. Okay, I found it. I'm going to switch off my flashlight. Right, there's so many modes. Stick it up there so I don't get in trouble. Okay, the VFR 600. Okay, right, here we go. So I have the 2 Hall sensors here. As you can see from the wiring, we have the yellow side with the yellow and white, and the blue side with the blue and white. My yellow and white one doesn't work. I'm not sure if they're sided. I could just put any in. Well, what I'm going to do first, they look a bit different actually, to be honest with you. They look quite further apart. Let's take them out and see if I can get it on the bike, and then we'll just test it and see if it works. This is sounding a bit too easy. Everything is always... Don't jinx it, Nana. Shut your mouth. Okay, here we go. So these are the ones that I have got off of the VFR. We have the same wiring, essentially the same. However, the one that comes on Shadow, bit different size, isn't it? So the one at the top is the Shadow one, the one at the bottom is the VFR one. But the good thing about it is the Shadow one is really worn down, like completely flat. The VFR one has way more of a tab on it. I'm just wondering how I can get it to fit, because it's angled the wrong way as well. So that bolts in flat like that, and this pickup bolts in that. So we need to get it to go like that. Not too confident in trying to get this to fit without first having a look in here, because you never know. So I'm going to open the pan-European and have a look. I think this is, I'm not sure where they would even be in here, but I'm seeing some yellow and white. It's not even the right cables. Try and have a look in here, see if I can find the pickup coils off of this bike, and then hopefully there'll be a closer match to the ones that are on the Shadow. If not, we also had a GSXR at one point, and I'm pretty sure the engine was taken apart, and that's in there. That's also a Japanese bike. The Hall sensors say Japan on them, so I mean, in my brain, it would make more sense to go through every single bike that we ever had and look at every single Hall sensor and find one that's the closest fit, rather than just kind of looking at that one and trying to make it fit. So, excuse me again, whilst I go and look for more hall sensors. Why is there a spider web on my arm? Right, I'm not being funny, but the pole strands are in the stupidest place ever on this bike. Like, legit, I had to take off. I had to take off the seat, and it was like completely properly pressed down. So I had to get my mole grips in there to pull out the cable so I could take the seat off. Once the seat's off, all of the airbox and like all of that stuff has to come off, the tank has to come off, and then the pole strand is, whoopsie, this right here at the back of the engine. I looked on Google before I started taking this off when I realised that the seat had to come off and I was having trouble getting it off. And this one looks like the best fit. So as you can see, the alternator right here, I think that's what that's called, is disconnected. That was the original problem with the bike. The guy who owned the bike couldn't get the parts, and it was just a lot of faff and messing around. So I think the engine is good on this bike, so the pole strands should be okay. But it was just that problem that he had, and then it ended up being parked for years, and it's just been open and parked, and it's just not, it's not really worth now trying to get it running, because like everything has been caught and damaged, and it's been in and out of mechanics, and when they get to mechanics here, people just like taking things off that don't belong to them, and yeah, so it is now going to turn into a display for us at the cafe. Need a new sign. Let's see if we can get wiggle this off. I know you're not supposed to use screwdrivers in mating surfaces, but this is not getting run at all. So I'm just going to do this. Ooh, it only has one pole strand on the whole bike. That's interesting. Okay, so there's one of the pole strands, and it happens to be the yellow and white one, which is the one that we need anyway. So we're going to go and check it against all of the pole strands that I found, and whichever one is the best fit, we will use. I'll clear all of this up, and I really don't want to. Panya, clean up. I'll be back in 5. Okay, so we finally made it back. We have all of these different pole strands, and going through all of them, these were the ones that came off of the VFR 600, so they're definitely not the right shape or size. They also don't fit in like the right place. Like, they're supposed to sit upwards, these just sit flat, so we can't use those. These are off of the GSX-R. They do sit in the right place, but they're just too big. And then this is the one that I took off of the, what do you call that bike? The one over there. The actual box part of it, this part is the same, but the feet are kind of different. So as you can see, the sensor is really close to the pickup. It's got these like extra bits on the feet to move it away. But if I were to put this one that came off of the S whatever in, it sits quite far back. Also, the feet are slightly off. Some kind of bracket or something would fit in there, but it needs to sit a bit more forward. So we're going to have to figure something out with that. Also, we don't know if it sparks or not, so I'd rather mess up the coil. I'd rather mess up this pole strand, try and figure out its feet, than do anything here in case it doesn't work, and we do have to end up buying a original one. So we're going to make a bracket, and what I'm basically thinking is, and right page. Okay, so basically what I did was, so I've drawn around the feet of the original pole strand. I then drew around the feet of the pole strand from the Pan-European, and what I'm going to do is cut this out of a thin sheet of metal because there's not that much space inside the engine. So this part will bolt into the engine, and this will then bolt onto the new pole strand. This little bracket, hopefully the new pole strand, which will be sat right there, will be sat closest to the pickup, so we won't have any problems of the distance being too far away. Not only that, it also means it can fit into the engine, and I don't have to do any modification to the engine. And that way, if that pole strand doesn't work, I can just unbolt the whole thing, scrap it, and not have messed with anything inside the engine. Okay, so here is the little bracket that I've made. It now allows this to sit closer to these teeth on the pickup. I've not done any damage to the engine, I've just bolted that in. These were the original holes for the old one, and they were sat like a bit further back, but obviously this one now is closer, so hopefully that should work. So, it didn't really go to plan. However, I am confident the bike's going to start. There's a spider floating in the sky. Get off me, get off me. Okay, don't like spiders. So we ended up turning the bike over a few times just to try and dial everything in and make sure we were getting spark at top dead center, because obviously we had UCDIs in. We had to do a bit of magic inside of the engine near the pulse gens, that little coil pickup. It all worked out totally fine. I was starting to think this is going to start. Dad was like, this is going to start. I was so confident that it was going to start. I didn't bother filming the turning over process. I was about ready to drop kick every person who's about to drive past in the next 5 minutes. Do you want to go, bro? Okay, we were so confident that the bike was going to start that I didn't see the point in filming the kind of dialing in part of it, because we were turning the bike over a couple of days and stuff, and it was just like, didn't see the point in doing it. So that being said, got to a point where the bike was firing and we were so confident that it was going to like just turn over and start, and it was turning itself over, it was firing. We did have an incontinence issue with our carburetor, I think just because it's quite elderly and decrepit, but like past elderly, like super elderly, very decrepit. So we kind of ditched the carburetor and then just decided to put small amounts of fuel directly into the engine, which I know what you're thinking, that's a stupid idea, but I literally got the fire extinguisher out, so it's fine. Believe me. Don't believe me, explain that. Yep. And it's at that point where I was like, this is going to start. Yes, we are finally going to achieve something with Shadow this year. And then when I went to go and turn it over, it was ready, and I was like, it's going to work now, let's just turn it over. Exactly. That's literally what happened. That's how it felt. Right on cue. Yeah, the donkey just explained it really well. So I don't know if you remember the beginning of the video, there was a bit of me doing some work over like the year in its entirety, and one of the jobs that I did do was change I'm laughing but it's not funny, was change the sprag clutch inside of the engine. It took a very long time for that part to get. I'm going to reopen the restaurant in about 8 days time, so my my free time has gone from 0 to -100. So what's going to have to happen now is I'm going to have to give up on my hopes and dreams of getting the bike running before the end of the year, because we're going to open in 8 days. I need a new sprag clutch, I need a full rebuild kit for that carburetor. There's no way, with a minimum of 6 weeks shipping waiting time, that I'm getting any of those things. So, and I think the reason that the sprag clutch went so early is, number one, it wasn't used, but it was brand new from China, because that was the only one that I could find at the time. There aren't, like I always say, Shadow was not a very popular bike in the UK, which is where I'm from, which is where I buy my parts from. So a lot of the parts that I did find for the sprag clutch were used, and I didn't see the point in buying a used one, because obviously people have been using it, it's only going to come here and get used more, and it will probably just die out faster. Number two, also, because the bike hasn't been started for so long, we're having to crank it for a while, because it just doesn't have that running memory. Like, it's been flat for a long time, essentially 10 years. So although we've put everything back and we've been fiddling with things and we're dialing it all in, it's not gonna fire up on the first crank. So that's probably also why it died. And there's not really much we can do about it. So, so far, I hope you've enjoyed the process. Once again, I'm going to take a long extended break on Shadow. I'm going to go and get all the things that I need, come back again, and as soon as I have a chance in my break, I will get to work on this. Told you, I'm not giving up on you. I'm not giving up on you. I'm just giving in for now. So we're going to give in for a little bit and we'll be back. In the meantime, as for the channel, if you want, you can go and have a look at the building playlist. We are building a tiny guest house in Gambia, so I think more than likely the rest of the videos that are going to get uploaded until we work on Shadow are going to be building videos. If you don't like building vlogs, don't bother looking. If you're interested in seeing some more building, go and have a look over there in the meantime. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're enjoying the process. Mostly the failure of the process, and I will see you in the next vlog. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye for now. Should I make it less awkward? Why does it sound like I'm talking to like a friend or something? Okay, so